All right, guys, part two. As Polly ate, she thought with a smile of her mother, who always managed to either undercook the spoon bread, burn the occasional rabbit or squirrel her father brought home, or forget to add spice to the stew. They ate lots of fried catfish, some of it quite raw, some of it crispy black. When her mother had fixed Hoppy John, it was crunchy and gritty, obviously not cooked as long or as well as Teeny's meal. Polly glanced at the girl, who insisted her name was Amari, and saw that her thoughts were far from this warm kitchen as well. Tibbet watched every move the girls made. He giggled every time Amari stuffed her fingers into the bowl. "What's the dog's name?" Polly asked Tibbet. "Hush Puppy," the boy replied cheerfully as he reached down to hand the dog a scrap of bread. "You know how to hush and hide," the boy said proudly. "I'm going to give you two guys a couple of days to know your way around here before I put you to work," Tini told them as they finished eating. "And Tibbet, I done told you to keep that raggedy old dog out of my kitchen." The boy just laughed and disappeared under the table with the dog. "Come by here tomorrow and watch me work," Tini continued. "That's the best way to learn. Just stay out of my way, 'cause I'll be busier than a stump-tailed cow in fly time. I fixes all the meals round here." Before Polly could respond, Tini added, "Your job, Miss Polly, is to explain everything you see to this here African gal. Teach her the words, 'cause Massa ain't gonna wait no long time for he be expecting her to hold her own. And Miss Africa, learn what words you can. But learn to keep your mouth shut, 'cause Clay, that hellhound, got less patience than his daddy." She grunted with the taste. "That boy got a thumping gizzard for a heart." "Yes'm," Polly mumbled. "Gal, where you from? I told you don't be calling me ma'am and miss. Your mama didn't raise you right," she said with a grin. Tibby giggled from under the table. "I'm from Beaufort in the Low Country," Polly explained. "Nothing much here but bugs and gators and a few folks scraping the dirt to make do. My mother is dead. My father as well." She swallowed hard. "Oh, child, how they die?" Teeny's face grew tender. Polly looked at her and saw that Teeny really wanted to know. "My father was born in England, and he was a good-looking man," she began. She smiled as she thought of his charming grin. "He told me ladies used to follow him home from the pubs every night. He would buy them fine wine and expensive gifts and tell them the lies they wanted to hear. He lived a grand life until he ran out of money." She paused. "He was thrown in jail like a common criminal, just because he couldn't pay his debts." Teeny sucked in her teeth, but made no comment. He had friends in the court system, however, and he was given the chance to start over in the colonies as an indentured servant. He came here on a prison ship. A frightful experience, he said. Eventually, his indenture was sold to a man named Jeremy Carton in Beaufort, right here in Carolina Colony. That's where he met my mother, who put an end to his fondness for other ladies, but not, however, his affection for ale and wine. I was born there. The slave girl gently petted the dog under the table, looking at it as if she was trying to follow the conversation. Polly continued. "My father worked like an ordinary slave on a tobacco farm." She looked up to see if Teeny had reacted to that, but Teeny simply continued to stir the food in the pot over the fire. She used a whisk that looked like it was made from the twig of a tree. "He worked hard, but he would never make enough to pay off his debt. My daddy was a good man, but not real careful with what little money he got. He drank too much sometimes." Polly shifted on the bench a little. "What about your mama?" Teeny asked gently. "My mother came up rough. She was an orphan. She was shuffled from family to family most of her childhood. She learned to make do for herself most of her life. She worked as a maid when she could, as a beggar when she couldn't." "Well, pick my peas! A white woman as a maid and a beggar? Must not be no slaves from where she come from," Teeny commented. "Not all white people are rich landowners," Polly said almost coldly. "Most white folks I know scuffle for every scrap of food they get." "Yeah, but they ain't slaves," Teeny reminded her quietly. "Go on, child." Polly thought for a moment and continued. "My father kept getting in trouble, spending months in jail, and was unable to pay back his indenture. My mother tried her best to keep us together as a family, even signing on Mr. Carton as an indenture herself. There was never enough work or money or food, even though she offered to do other people's laundry after her work was done for Carton. Nobody would hire a white woman because folks knew they could get slaves to do the work for free." Polly tensed as she thought of the unfairness. Teeny took that moment to cut each girl a large slice of pumpkin pie. She cut a tiny piece for Tibbet, who stuffed most of it into his mouth in one bite, then grinned a large orange smile. The rest he gave to the dog. "Well, the sun don't shine on the same dog's tail all the time," Teeny said philosophically. "Everybody got hard times at one time or t'other." "I suppose," Polly began, this time speaking very slowly. "But then, 3 months ago, my parents came down with the smallpox." Teeny stopped chopping the onions for a moment. Daddy died first, then 3 days later, my mother. I nursed them both. I never got so much as a pimple. She paused, stood up, and walked herself outside of the hot cookhouse, taking deep breaths. I am not going to cry, she sternly told herself. When she felt she could continue, she went back to the kitchen. So how you end up here, gal? Teeny rattled a stack of tin plates. When Mr. Jeremy Carter decided that I'm gonna sign on to pay back what my parents owed him, and I had no choice but to do it. He's just a small dirt farm, so I suppose to prevent me from running off, and I would have too. He took me with him to Charlestown to get supplies yesterday. Then he met Mr. Derby in the tavern, and he somehow sold my ditcher to him. I'm not sure how or why, so here I am. 7 years to pay back your ditcher ain't bad, Tinny pointed out. You is young and got plenty of time to make you a place in this here world. White women with dentures got it easy. Eventually you can fit in. Holly glanced over at Teeny, surprised at the emotion in her voice. Teeny poked furiously at the coals in the hearth. I must pay back 14 years, Polly told her. I must pay my own plus what was left of my parents' indentures. Mr. Derby says I should be glad he was willing to take on all that debt. I suppose I should be thankful, but I'm 15 years old. By the time I pay him back, I'll be almost 30, a wrinkled old woman. She stared for a long time at the blazing embers of Teeny's fireplace. 30 ain't so old, Teeny said quietly. That's close to how old I'd be, far as I could tell. She gazed out the door of the small kitchen house and looked dreamily down the path that led away from the plantation. So as you guys can see, Teeny did get a little emotional. Part of that was because here is this girl talking about, she has to work all these years for this guy, but eventually she's going to be free, and it's hard. She did have it rough. You could tell just by the way that she is, going back about her parents dying, living poor. Like it was hard. So don't minimize it. But at the same time, here's Teeny like, yo, you're gonna be okay. Like you're gonna be done. You're young, and 30's not that old. Like even though she feels like that because she's so young. When you're young, you think 20, 25 is old, but um, Teeny is sitting here like, I got to be in slavery. My kids got to be in slavery. My kids got to be in slavery. So while she feels sorry for the girl, she still, when you compare it and contrast it to what she has to go through, it's a lot more. But as we can tell, Polly has gone through a lot, even compared to most people. Polly watched as Amari moved close to Teeny and touched her hand. Something seemed to pass between them, a look of understanding, perhaps. Amari whispered a few words in her own language. Teeny moved away abruptly and returned to her brisk command of the room. Go on now, you two guys, get out of here. It be almost dark. I expect you both at dawn. Tibbet, go fetch me some wood for my fire, and take that dog with you, she yelled, although she didn't seem angry. The boy disappeared to the yard. Amari and Polly headed slowly back to the little cabin. Polly watched, amazed, as Amari rushed to grab the mat on the floor, shook it out, then curled up on it quickly. Why are you laying on the floor? Amari covered her head with her arms. You don't want to sleep in the bed? Again, the slave girl ignored her. Polly shrugged and climbed onto the narrow cot. The straw-filled mattress was lumpy and smelled of moldy vegetables, but it was better than anything she had felt in a long time. She slept. The knock on the door startled Polly awake. It was Tibbet, looking like a tiny night spirit. He was shivering, and so was his dog. Hey, Master Clay say he want his birthday present now. I'm to take her there. Polly gasped with realization and reached over to shake Amari awake. Amari sat up and looked from Polly to the trembling child. Her face was a question. Polly said slowly and with genuine sorrow, you must go with Tibbet. Master Clay is asking for you. Amari looked at Polly, then the child, and suddenly seeming to understand, she groaned. No, 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 she begged. Polly touched her arm but couldn't think how to help her. Tibbet stood silently, shifting from foot to foot, looking very uncomfortable. Amari finally took a deep breath, stood up without a word, and followed the child out of the door. The night was very dark. All right, so as we finish here, we're going to start Amari for part 3. But again, notice, I know we talk about it a lot, the sexual abuse that women slaves had to go through, and it was constant. And it seems like a lot when we're reading the book, but us reading it, imagine how it would have been living it. And this is what these women, these girls, many times had to live with, and it was a constant thing. And Amari just here around the same age as this guy. He's 16, she's 15, and her body is just basically being used for that. So um, we will start again anew. We'll start with part three of Mari shortly.